It is whispered that certain moments etch themselves into the tapestry of one's memory for all time. They linger like whispers, silent yet ever watchful. 2 years have passed since that fateful day. 2 years since everything changed forever. What began as a simple beach outing with my son, Leonard, was destined for something more. My husband, Phoenix, often found himself caught in the web of work, leaving family moments just out of reach. I had become familiar with this solitude, yet that day seemed extraordinary. In those moments, both past and present, we found our place, basking in the warmth of the sun. Perhaps a touch too much. I settled back, finally free from the clamor of the world, and asked Leonard to help me with some oil on my back. I moved forward without a moment's pause. He is my son, my beloved child. What is the reason behind my actions? At first, it seemed trivial, only his hands guiding me. Yet, in the moments that followed, I came to see it clearly. I felt his presence draw closer, then fade away, and I chose to remain silent. What is the tale behind it? Did I not stop him? You think you possess understanding. One might think they truly grasp the essence of their family, yet there lies a unique moment capable of unraveling it all. It was on that beach where everything changed for me, forever reshaping my life. Phoenix and I had shared the journey of marriage for more than 15 years. Those who know us would paint a picture of the perfect couple, living in a charming home, raising wonderful children, and enjoying a life of stability. Yet, the cracks lie hidden, only revealing themselves when one finds themselves nestled within the boundaries. The void remains unseen, a silent presence, until one finds themselves within its grasp. For years, Phoenix's career enveloped his very essence. He toured with unwavering dedication. I chose not to intervene. On weekends and holidays, I found solace in the belief that his long hours and dedication were all for the promise of a brighter future for our family. Yet, as time flows on, that tale starts to come apart at the seams. What worth does a dwelling hold if it remains forever uninhabited? As he steps through the door, I faded into the shadows, becoming a whisper in the air. Unseen and unheard, he barely recognized that I was there. He stopped asking about my feelings, desires, and needs. Our exchanges were often brief, centered around expenses, groceries, and the kids. He cherished Leonard and his younger sister Isa. Yet, even amidst their gathering, he seemed to linger like a whisper of darkness. He stood before us, a figure of presence, yet his heart seemed to wander far away. I sat at the table across from him, pondering whether he felt my presence that morning. I remember standing in the kitchen, anticipation building as Phoenix hurried out the door. He seized his briefcase, planted a gentle kiss on the crown of Isa's head, and cast a fleeting glance my way, offering a silent apology. My apologies, Freya. Alas, I must confess that today is not the day for my presence. A challenge emerged in the workplace. I chose not to partake in any dispute. I merely nodded, as I always did, feeling my throat tighten. I comforted myself with the thought that it was perfectly fine. Once upon a time, there was a character named Leonard. In those days, Leonard found himself at the tender age of 16. Lofty and delicate, and I could journey forth on my own. His father's brown eyes mirrored in him a legacy of shared gaze and unspoken stories. Even though his face was softer, he remained silent, even when I shared with him, and it would be just the two of us. It seemed he had grown accustomed to his father's frequent absences, as he simply shrugged in response. With a firm grip on the bags, he joined me as we made our way to the vehicle. I watched him from the passenger seat as the adventure unfolds, earphones in, staring out the window, lost in thought, as young souls often find themselves doing. A smile crept across my face. He was growing and evolving at an impressive pace. At times, I found myself contemplating if a mere blink would cause me to lose him forever. The path to the shore unfolded like a tale waiting to be told. Endless. My thoughts wandered, as is frequently the case. To Phoenix, looking back on the countless moments we once experienced together, especially our extended cinematic nights spent together. Are you all still with me? Press 1 to allow me. I'm aware that your ears are still attuned to my words. Wandering through the streets and indulging in carefree adventures stirred memories of his tender touches, and the way his eyes would light up when they fell upon me. For years, those sensations had danced just out of reach, teasing my senses. Departing, I find myself stripped of emotion, weary from the weight of emotions, neglected. At long last, we arrived at our long-awaited destination. Leonard lent a hand as we moved the bags to a quiet spot, by the water's edge. As I meticulously arranged the towels, he skillfully erected the umbrella, setting the stage for a perfect day ahead. A sudden urge to engage in conversation with him washed over me, leaving me puzzled about its origin. Perhaps it was because he stood as the only companion in the tale. Or perhaps I just needed a kind ear to hear my thoughts. Venturing outdoors brings a delightful sense of joy. Would you not see it the same way? He tried to wear a bright smile as he nodded, his demeanor a careful mask of cheerfulness. He swept his hair back with a casual flick of his fingers. Indeed, mother. It brings a sense of warmth and joy. I settled back on the towel, embracing the sun's gentle warmth as it seeps into my skin, and lingered in silence for a moment. I permitted myself to unwind, striving to lighten the weight of the years gone by, even if only for a fleeting hour. Yet, I remembered the oil and shifted my gaze to Leonard, inquiring, "Could you lend me a hand with this application?" I asked about my back. It seems I cannot reach it by myself. He cast a fleeting glance in my direction. Hesitant to accept the bottle from my grasp, I settled back, confronting the fabric. And so, the next chapter hung in the balance, waiting for the unfolding of events. The initial encounter was gentle and filled with hesitation. His hands trembled, uncertain as if caught in a moment of suspense. He sought to steer clear of bringing me any pain. A smile graced my lips. It brought to mind those moments from his childhood when he would grasp my hand tightly as we ventured across the street together. In those days, his hands were so small that I could press a little more firmly. I shared the news with him. My voice is quiet. It is satisfactory. He absorbed every word. As he worked it all into my shoulders. His hands grew more powerful, each movement a testament to his skill. I shut my gaze was fixed, absorbing the soothing warmth of his rhythmic touch gliding along my back. For a fleeting instant, I embraced the sensation, savoring every moment. It had been a long time since anyone had laid a hand upon me, and that realization hit me with a depth I was reluctant to admit. Yet, his hands began to glide down gently, and with great care along the curve of my back. My breath caught in my throat, and though I parted my lips to weave a reply, no words flowed forth. Departing, the world around me falls into a hush. I comforted myself with the thought that it was perfectly fine. He claimed he was merely lending a hand, implying that I was lost in my own illusions. Yet, the tale continues. I was not. His hands hovered for a brief moment at the edge of my towel, and I felt the tremor of his doubt. I felt the stirrings of my own emotions. Instead of stopping him, I proclaimed. It's quite satisfactory. Feel free to continue on your journey. The words hung heavy in the air, casting a shadow over the scene, and as soon as they slipped from my lips, I came to understand their permanence. Leonard stood still, enveloped in silence. I closed my eyes firmly. His hands were positioned lower than what was deemed appropriate. My heart raced with fervor. As though he could sense it. I longed to change my position and rise to an upright stance. I might have guided him to stop. Yet, I held back. I simply could not let that happen. Even now, there lingers a sense of doubt within me, a question that remains unanswered. Perhaps it stemmed from a sense of solitude. Or maybe I was as well, yearning for acknowledgement, in spite of the ethical considerations at play. Or perhaps I was simply unmoved. On that fateful day by the shore, all that resided within me crumbled to pieces, and nothing would ever revert to its previous form. If you have journeyed through this tale, your ongoing involvement is truly valued. I see that it can be quite difficult. If this video captivates your interest, or trust that someone might connect with my tale, please take a moment to show your support by liking and subscribing. It greatly supports my endeavors to keep weaving such tales, and comforts me in my bond with others. At this very moment, let us circle back to the subject at hand. Following that day by the shore, a significant change took place that I simply could not overlook. The feelings I encountered, the visions that unfolded before my eyes, and Leonard's subsequent gaze was not merely fleeting. They pressed on, unwavering in their determination. Every time our gazes intertwined, a transformation had undeniably taken root within him, a quality so profound that I hesitated to name it. Yet it was impossible to ignore. I tried to hold it back as we made our way home that evening, striving to uphold a sense of normalcy in every possible way. As the evening approached, I set about crafting a delightful supper. As I folded laundry late into the night, I found myself asking Leonard about school. My hands quivered with anticipation. I found myself returning time and again to the moments that unfolded with him. He lingered, as if time itself had paused to savor the moment, and the tension that coursed through my very being. I loathed myself for it, and I felt a deep-seated bitterness towards him for stirring such emotions regarding my own son. Phoenix lingered in a world of unawareness. He made his way back home as he often did, under the cloak of night, with his tie askew and a weary expression etched upon his face. He carried the weight of untold tales. He pressed his lips to my cheek, a gesture so familiar it felt like a well-worn tale, just a shadow of what once thrived after a long day's journey. I asked, awaiting a conversation. He simply grunted and nodded, a silent acknowledgement of the moment. On my way to the living room, a tale that unfolded time and again. His presence lingered in the air, as if it were a whisper of a memory, barely noticed yet somehow significant, making me unseen yet again. On that fateful night, as I reclined in my bed, the world outside faded away, gazed intently at the ceiling. As Phoenix lay peacefully beside me, lost in dreams. The abode was serene, yet my thoughts were a swirling tempest. My mind wandered, consumed by reflections of Leonard. His hands and his gaze held a world of unspoken tales. I became aware of the inappropriateness of my emotions. I realized it was best to put an end to whatever was brewing before it grew out of control. Yet, a shadowy hue, a more solitary aspect of me longed to hold onto it tightly, yearning for the spotlight, the caress, the feeling of being recognized. Time has flowed by, and Leonard held his tongue, a quiet presence in the room. Yet, his silence echoed with a depth that words could never capture. He faced me head-on. Indeed, it seemed as if he hovered just a heartbeat away. He would watch me intently as I prepared the meal. All tidied up. There I was, perched on the couch, enveloped by the quiet of the night, lost in my thoughts, and I let it unfold. I let him go. I held back from holding back. And so it is. The weekend drew near, marked by an overwhelming warmth. The atmosphere of the home became stifling. Phoenix had set sail to tend to a final vessel, departing once more. It's just Leonard and I, together in this moment. I asked him if he wished to revisit the beach. Only we remained in a moment of reflection. I find myself questioning the reasons behind my proposal. Perhaps I thought that stepping into the great outdoors would bring some kind of advantage, illuminate my mind. Perhaps I sought to test my limits, to discover if I could unravel everything. The voyage unfolded with a serene grace this time. Once upon a time, there was a character named Leonard. Yet, he chose not to wear his headphones. He stayed in his place, unmoving, peering through the glass. His knee danced with an anxious energy. I felt the deep urge to express a thought, everything, to shatter the silence. Yet, every time I tried to express myself, the words caught in my throat. As I set foot on the sandy shore, it was nearly abandoned. As I reminisce, the ocean's vibrant blue washes over me, and I can almost feel the gentle breeze caressing my face. The towels were arranged once more, just as they had been before. Leonard played a crucial role in helping me bring everything together. I did not ask him to apply oil on my back. On the contrary, I sat in silence, my eyes gently shut, simulating calmness. Yet, even with my eyes closed, I felt the weight of his gaze upon me. I sensed his gaze upon me. The pivotal moment unfolded soon after. On that fateful afternoon, we chose to embark on a journey of purification. Before we set off, we found ourselves at the beach showers. Our aim was to quickly brush away the grains that clung to our skin. Yet, a mysterious occurrence unfolded. Upon our arrival at the showers, Leonard took the plunge, stepping under the water first, letting it flow gracefully down his back. I caught a glimpse of him from the side for a brief moment before stepping into his world. An irresistible urge drew me to shed my outer layers and take my place beside him. The water caressed my skin, a gentle embrace from nature itself. Leonard looked at me with a glimmer of astonishment. There lingers a doubt within me, a question of whether it was simply a sense of wonder that enveloped my being, uncertainty, or a completely different matter. Yet, he chose to hold his tongue. I caught a fleeting glimpse of him. She then examined him closely and spoke. Once upon a time, there was you. It would be wise to part with your shorts as well. Thorough rinsing is essential. I find myself pondering the reasons behind my expression of this. Perhaps I aim to showcase my mastery, or to bring the unfolding events to a standstill. Perhaps I was assessing both him and myself. He took a moment to gather his thoughts before giving in. He slipped off his shoes. And so it was that we came to be united, isolated, within the depths of the water. As the rain cascaded from the heavens, wiping away all that surrounds us, leaving only the essence of our feelings. I averted my gaze from him and gently sought help with my back. He acquiesced. His hands were as gentle as they had always been. Yet, the unmistakable tension that hung in the air between us was impossible to ignore. As his hand brushed against my waist, I turned to stone. The air grew heavy with anticipation, and the sound of the water enveloped everything, silencing all that came before. I might have chosen to turn and leave. I might have paused the instant. Yet, in contrast, I drew nearer, seized his hands, and led them to my heart. He remained steadfast. What unfolded next is truly beyond words. It was a brief, shimmering instant, a haze. I arose from necessity. In the quiet corners of existence, where shadows linger and echoes of silence resonate, there lies a profound sense of solitude, and a feeling without a name. It was a sudden and fierce occurrence. It was of the utmost importance, passionately enthusiastic, flawed in every way. Yet, I found myself powerless to halt its course. There was no inclination within me to pursue that path. At the end of it all, we held our breath, frozen in the moment. The water flows down, enveloping us in its embrace, wiping away the traces. Yet the essence remains untouched. He wrapped his arms around me in a way that felt like a long-lost memory returning to life, and I returned the gesture. And so it came to pass. We stood in quietude as we dried ourselves. In quietude, we gathered our things and made our way back to the car. I watched Leonard from the sidelines. His face burned with color, and his movements were stiff and unyielding. I came to understand that I had forever altered the course of everything. We had ventured beyond a barrier that seemed impossible to overcome. However, after a long stretch of time, a surge of energy coursed through me. The journey home began with a gentle hush. The vehicle enveloped me, a heavy weight pressing down, leaving little room to breathe. The very air around us felt as though it bore a weight, pressing down with an undeniable force. I held the steering wheel tightly, striving to focus on the journey ahead. Yet, my thoughts swirled in a chaotic dance. I could still feel Leonard's presence lingering in the air. His hands, his form. The weight of our recent actions hangs heavily in the air. I often cast my eyes toward him in the passenger seat. He held a tautness within him, staring out the window. His face burned with emotion, and his jaw tightened in resolve. And so it was, out of the blue, he began to weave his words. Mother. He spoke. His voice was soft and uncertain. I turned my eyes away from him. I found myself at a loss for words. Though I caught wine of him speaking about the recent event, my heart momentarily skipped a beat as I pondered the allure of ignorance, teetering on the edge of dismissal. The narrative took a turn. Yet, the pretense of unawareness had lost its charm, particularly following our deeds. I took a shaky breath and spoke. I am uncertain. That was the truth. Or perhaps the nearest semblance. I found myself in the dark about what had unfolded, and the motives that lay beneath it all. All I understood was that everything had transformed. Our words fell silent until we reached the driveway. I switched off the engine, bringing the journey to a gentle close. Yet, neither of us took a step forward. Leonard finally turned his eyes toward me, gazed at me with deep intensity, and for the very first time, in his eyes, I glimpsed a shadow that sent a chill down my spine. It was not confusion that I saw there, regret. Or perhaps even a sense of shame. Yet, a deep yearning. For how long have you kept these emotions close to your heart? He asked, for his words to send shivers down my spine. As I found myself pondering the very same topic, I looked upon him, and it felt as though a fragment of my very essence had splintered apart within me. I proclaimed, maybe more extended than I wish. In the stillness of the night, we held our breath, enveloped by the shadows, pondering whether we should retreat indoors to wipe the event from our memories and pretend everything is as it should be. Yet, Leonard harbored different ambitions. Before I opened the door, he leaned in and pressed his lips against mine. It began softly, like a whisper in the breeze. He appeared to tread carefully, as if dreading the thought of my retreat. Yet, I did not. He leaned in, and I surrendered to the moment, allowing his lips to meet mine, returned in kind. And then, the rein slipped from my grasp. Uncertain whether it was the solitude from years of neglect, or the intensity of Leonard's gaze that had been missing for an eternity, I surrendered to the magic of the moment outside our house. Leonard wrapped his arms around me. His hands moved over my body with a grace that felt destined, as if they belonged there all along. A surge of energy coursed through me, longed for. And genuinely recognized for the first time in years. Nothing else held significance. The length of our intertwining remains a mystery to me. But, as the tale unfolded, we found ourselves drawn back within the comforting embrace of our home. The journey to the door is but a faint memory in my mind, just the feeling of his hand in mine, and the quiet that enveloped us. Throbbing with an energy that crackles in the air. We held our tongues. Silence spoke volumes. Upon entering, all grew more vivid, as though we had been holding back for far too long, and the dam had finally given way. The days that followed were shrouded in a thick fog. Leonard always stayed close by my side. In search of moments to lightly touch my essence or catch a glimpse of me when the world is unaware. I compelled myself to hold back, to retreat. To bring an end to whatever this may be. Yet, each time I laid my eyes upon him, I felt the echo of the same desolation that weighed upon my own heart. We seemed to be mirrors of each other, reflecting the same emptiness, the very essence of emptiness. And I discovered it was utterly unthinkable to decline. I had no wish to. As darkness enveloped the world, I would find myself lying in bed next to Phoenix, pondering the connection we all shared. In harmony with the cadence of his breath. My mind would wander to Leonard in the room next door, remembering the touch of his hands and how he breathed new life into my soul. Before I would gently close my eyes, winding within me, a creature of shadows and whispers. I recognized that it was not a viable path forward. I had a sense of it. The circumstances were misguided, yet I found myself powerless to halt the growing strain that lingered between us, which grew more intense with each passing day until it finally erupted in a spectacular explosion. It was a late evening, and I found myself immersed in my work in Phoenix. As I drifted into slumber, Leonard and I found ourselves in the heart of the kitchen, sharing a moment of quiet camaraderie. As I scrubbed the dishes, I found a moment to escape my thoughts. There was an unmistakable feeling of someone lurking just behind me, transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary. There he was, his eyes fixed on me just as they had been that day on the beach. Leonard, I whispered gently, hoping to guide him with my words. Yet he pressed on, drawing so close that I could sense his breath whispering against my neck. Mother, he murmured. The thought lingers in my mind, refusing to fade away. I found myself completely unable to move. My heart raced with such fervor that I feared it might burst forth from my chest. I meant to guide him to halt his journey. He went back to his room, preparing to part ways with me. However, I found myself unable to comply instead. I looked at him and uttered the one phrase I should have kept to myself, which was that I could not cease either. In that instant, the fabric of reality unraveled completely, and Leonard kissed me once more, his passion deepening with every moment. In a fleeting moment of desperation, I met his kiss with one of my own, overlooking the ethical considerations and the presence of Phoenix and the life we had woven together. All my attention was on Leonard, my child, the sole person who had rekindled my feeling of importance since that fateful day on the beach. Since that time, the familiar rhythm of life has slipped through our fingers, and I find myself pondering whether it shall ever make its way back. Leonard and I have ventured into uncharted territory. It lingers, an indelible mark, no matter how hard I try to convince myself otherwise. What started as a brief encounter has transformed into a heavy weight of shame that I find impossible to bear. The circumstances remain steadfast. Yet it does not sway my resolve. What is the element that sends shivers down my spine? Every single day, I catch a glimpse of my husband. Once upon a time, there was a magnificent creature known as the Phoenix, and my daughter. And I reflect on how they stay unaware of it. How they overlook it. The cracks widening within our family might arise from their focus on their own journeys, leaving them unaware of my descent. Or perhaps I have simply grown more skilled at hiding it. Yet, I find myself acutely conscious that this predicament cannot endure. Endless mysteries will always emerge, surface. When that moment arrives, the consequences will far surpass all my attempts to avert them. I have consistently persuaded myself that this is mistaken, that Leonard truly deserves the best narrative, and I am worthy of something greater too. Yet, every time his fingers brush against my skin or his eyes lock onto mine, as if I'm the only person in the universe, I yield. He fills me with a vitality I haven't felt in years, maybe for all time. And that is the tear I must navigate. There lies a cloud of uncertainty surrounding the resolution of this issue. There lingers a doubt within me about my ability to untangle this predicament. That is why I'm sharing my tale, hoping that someone might hold the key to a solution. Here I stand, caught in a situation I never imagined I would face. Maybe you could lend me your hand in liberating myself from this chaos before it solidifies into something unchangeable. Thus, I earnestly request that you impart any wisdom you might hold, especially if you have encountered a similar situation or know someone who has. I am excited to listen from you. Furthermore, let this unfold as a tale of warning. In the quiet embrace of solitude, one may discover depths previously unimagined. Once upon a time, in a world filled with endless possibilities, there existed a simple yet profound word. Do. It beckoned to those who dared to take action, to step beyond the confines of mere thought and into the realm of creation. With each utterance, It ignited a spark of potential, urging hearts to embark on journeys unknown and to weave their own tales of adventure and discovery. Do not let yourself wander as far as I have. Let your world crumble away before you grasp the reality of what lies before you. For it is when you cross that threshold, there is no coming back. I appreciate your attention. Share your thoughts. If this video resonated with you, give it a thumbs up and join us for more captivating content ahead. In this vast tapestry of life, I seek the comforting thread that reminds me I'm not solitary in my journey. At times, the deepest betrayals are not those we inflict upon others, but rather the ones we commit against our own selves.